Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in the path, fellow aspirants, fellow travelers, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great privilege, a great honor, and a great blessing for us at the Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and on behalf of the Mind Life Institute, to welcome you and to welcome two great masters, icons of the spiritual path, to what we consider a historic moment when two great minds of our times meet in dialogue and conversation. We will be talking about yogic and Buddhist techniques of mind training and cultivating happiness. In my brief introduction to Guru BKS Iyengar this morning, I said quite literally the cliché that they need no introduction is particularly true in this context. And so I shall not waste our valuable time here with them in formal introductions. Suffice it to say that it has been a deep privilege to know and work with these great masters. And what has set them aside, set them apart from their erudition, their insights, and their wisdom, that here are two people who truly embody what they preach, and in the highest traditions of India's civilizational heritage, continue to practice, to engage in a daily sadhana or practice. So for them, it isn't a peak epiphanic moment of enlightenment and insight from which the teachings have followed, but a continuing process of engaging in what they teach and what they practice. It is a profound honor for me to be moderating the session. Sorry. Your Holiness, we're talking here about happiness, the cultivation of happiness, and happiness is variously described and understood in different traditions. Though in both yoga and in Buddhism is the notion of dukkha and the elimination of dukkha. But what is left behind, or what happens, or what is the state of mind once dukkha is eliminated or erased or transcended? We also have in our Eastern vocabularies, samadhi, moksha, nirvana, several words and phrases for this highest experience when dukkha ceases. So what is happiness in your tradition?
Firstly, I really enjoy this occasion. I usually refer Indians as our guru. So now here, I think real sense of guru. I'm Chara. I just learned. You see, at the time of my birth, he already started teaching yoga. So 76 years is the practice of yoga and also is teaching other. So real sense, because of the guru. Guruji. I usually, of course my English very limited, vocabulary very limited, but it seems to see when we say happiness is in the sense more like satisfaction, deep satisfaction. Then like I think the nirvana, moksha, the stage completely sort of cease the sources of suffering. That is something permanent sort of satisfaction. And happiness, not necessarily the feeling of pleasure. So sometimes suffering, physical suffering, I think mainly physical suffering also brings deeper satisfaction. And then I think another level, I think important to make distinction. The sensorial level, there's certain sort of satisfaction through sensorial experiences. Another level of satisfaction, not depend on sensorial sort of experience, but through, I think, mental level itself. So there are also, I think, two types. One, I think, more or less spontaneous. Another, through training, through familiarization, through cultivation, and make use it. Then eventually, a certain sort of, now, for example, the compassion, Mahakaruna. So once you actually sort of experience, of course, firstly, you should learn, then develop some genuine interest. Genuine interest brings, because of the enthusiasm and effort, and through that way, make familiar these ideas. They're familiar,
So when we speak of cultivation, and here, it's normally translated as meditation, we have to understand that there are different forms of cultivation. In some cultivation practices, you take on an object and then, focus upon it and meditate upon it. But in some forms of cultivation, you are not taking on a particular object, but you are cultivating a state of mind, a particular state of mind.
So there are also, I think, different level of awareness. One level of awareness through word. Another sort of level of awareness through reasoning, you get some kind of conviction. Then third level of awareness through experiences. So through that way, you see, get a deeper sort of satisfaction at the level of mind, not depend on sensorial experiences. So therefore, like dream state, the sensorial sort of consciousness, not active, not function, but mental level, you get certain sort of feeling, certain experiences. So, I always stress, as a Buddhist, our main sort of goal is Buddhahood. But meantime, we also should think the day-to-day life more pleasant, more calm. That as a byproduct, right? A byproduct. Through training of mind, you can, I think, equipped sort of better sort of the ability to combat day-to-day sort of problem. So that I usually see make sort of separation from Buddhist religion or religion. Simply, I call secular way to achieve happy life, day-to-day life. So like that. So that's happiness.
It's interesting that both in yoga you have the 8 stages, the 8 limbs of reaching that stage of happiness, as you do in the Buddhist tradition. So that is the aspiration, and there are similarities in the stages of the path. What for you is the ultimate goal? And we will come to some of the techniques and practices and the stages, because there is obviously a popular misconception which you have drawn attention to, that yoga is basically postures and training the body towards the ultimate access to the mind. But let's just stay with the goal, the ultimate goal of yoga.
No doubt, we all speak of happiness. Happiness has also got its own compartments. Like health having different compartments, Happiness also has got different compartments. Physical health, ethical health, mental health, intellectual health, conscious health, consciential health, and divine health. All put together is real health. Till then, one cannot say that I am healthy. Similarly, like the Sapta Pranta Bhumika of Prajna, there are 7 states of awarenesses. So first awareness is the awareness of these 7 stages of health. Then comes the 7 states of controlling the Sharira Jnana, or the complete understanding of each and every function of the body, Sharira Jnana, then Prana Jnana, how the breath moves and cooperates, coordinates with the prana for cleaning, cleansing the inner body, which cannot be visible to our eyes. Then each and every cell of our body, is it ethically disciplined in functioning healthily? Functioning healthily. Then comes the mental healthiness, where we are all caught up in lust, anger, greed, infatuation, pride, and envy. These are the emotional weeds which affects the mind. As such, the yogic discipline works in such a way that love without lust, anger without showing from the mind, but as if it is separate entity. When this art is developed, then the mind comes under control, so it experiences a state of poise, or I can say passivity, quietness, latitude. So when that state comes, as Holiness said, that is the stage where one has to jump towards to experience what real happiness is. Happiness is definitely subjective. It depends upon each individual. According to Yoga Sutra, Patanjali says that when he speaks of samadhi, he speaks of vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita. I am taking first 4, where the head being a logical seat of intellect, vichara, mind being the seat of the intelligence, there should be a thorough communication between the intellect of the head and the intellect of the heart. When they get blended together, then Patanjali says there is a joy. The moment the word joy, ananda, comes, the eye, the quality of the eye fades out. That is not ananda, it nullifies the consciousness. As it nullifies the consciousness, then the last stage is satchitta. You experience the true quality of the consciousness, which is pure in itself without any colorization. And that we call it Satchidananda, but it is only Satchit because there is no Ananda. Ananda is on the eye, quality of the eye, beyond the mind, is the Prajna, or you call it Atma Prajna. So there, Atma has no happiness, no suffering, nothing. So that is known as unalloyed poise, unalloyed peace, unalloyed joy. The aim of yoga is to experience the non-colorization of happiness, which ends only when one reaches from the physical, from the skin, going through the inner body, cleansing the inner body, cleansing the mind, cleansing the intelligence, cleansing the consciousness, so that when all these facets or all the vehemence of the self is completely cleansed, then there is nothing but joy, which cannot be called as a joy, which is beyond joy. And that I call is a real happiness.
So, Your Holiness, would you see this in the context of clear light, of without any kleshas, of having transcended any sort of descriptions of this state of experience and being, so that you can no longer label it as ananda, joy, but it is a state of being which is, I'm lost for words, I'm certainly nowhere near understanding or experiencing it, but do you see parallels in that?
When we're talking about these various states of mind, particularly those that are derived from meditative experience, we are dealing with a very, very complex and complicated subject here. For example, in the Buddhist sources, there are descriptions of various levels of absorbed mind, if you want to call it. For example, we understand the descriptions explains the states of mind in terms of progressively from a grosser to a subtler levels of absorption, and beginning with the everyday mental experience of the sensory world, then moving on to transcending the sensory experience and so on. So, and similarly in the Buddhist tradition, we find actually quite different descriptions as well. For example, in the Abhidhamma Kosha, as well as Abhidhamma Samuccaya sources, there are descriptions of various levels of jhana, concentrations, and each of these with different characteristics and qualities of mind. But then if you look at the Vajrayana sources, there seems to be a slightly different explanation of the different levels of subtlety. Again, the perspective, particularly in the highest yoga tantra. So, we are actually dealing with a very, very complex issue here.
Well, to bring this down to levels as unworthy aspirants as me can understand, what is it that makes Your Holiness happy on an everyday living experience?
I think my experience, almost zero. Of course, my daily practice, many yoga mandalas involved. So each the certain the occasion or stage is some meditation. But mainly, my interest and also my effort about investigation, about ultimate nature, about ultimate reality, that we call shunyata or anathema theory. So now this is the demarcation between Buddhism and non-Buddhism. Atma theory, anathema theory. So anathema, in deeper sense, the absence of independent existence. So that we call shunyata. Emptiness. Of course, each yoga practice, yoga mandala practice, the basis of visualization is the understanding of shunya. So without that, the visualization is just play. Right? Cannot be counterforce for grasping.
Grasping and clinging. Grasping and clinging.
Kanda tungni tawa the dene thayena jo magomna thayena jo di tadu zibinye woldo tungduwa.
So unless one's practices in the Buddhist context, such as based on mandala practice, is rooted in a deeper understanding of shunyata, emptiness, then it can in fact perpetuate grasping.
So that's my main interest. And then again, you see, in order to kara tungni gomyadi 시중에 불도돼야 남진 교른 도돼야리야 다 더쳐주고 있는 거가 알아. 근데 이제 전에 자주 쓰는 심링된 경향도 좋지 되게.
So since that wisdom, the understanding of shunyata, in order for that to really become a counterforce to even to the subtlest imprints and dispositions of affliction, it needs to be complemented with the skillful means aspect, the method aspect of the path. So here, one of my main practices involved cultivation of bodhicitta, awakening mind, and compassion.
So, then practice of samadhi, it needs hours of meditation. So my excuse is I have no time. If I have sufficient time, I don't know. Due to my laziness, I may not practice that.
Guruji, in terms of your practice, shunyata, the emptiness of inherent existence, in some ways is aims at, in our own everyday lives, to loosen our sense of grasping at false reality. You know, that to get a sense that what appears solid and it has an independent existence from its own side isn't really so. Would you see parallels to that in the investigation of recognizing that Maya, illusion, that all the world is an illusion, is a similar aspiration, though, I mean, underlying the notions of Atman and Prakriti and other principles? But
you know, first of all, we are, as being human beings, we are all struck by dukkha, no doubt about it. On account of our mental deficiencies. Vitarka vichara, vitarka himsadaya, kruta karita anumodita, lobha krodha moha purvaka, mrudu madhya adimatrad, ajnana ananta dukkha, ajnana phala iti pratipaksha bhavanam. So here Patanjali gives the reason that for suffering, the cause is that we are ignorant, we are caught up in the field of lust, anger and greed. On account of this, we are struggling to get out of it to experience the joy, the bliss. So the reason for our weakness is that our understanding, the total cleansing of the mind and the brain with the knowledge is still lacking. When these two are completely clean, that is where the Ashtanga Yoga, what this morning I gave the presentation, shows how one can improve by the ethical discipline of each asana, where the yama, in the principles of yama and the principles of niyama are introduced in each asana, so that one can experience a state of, what I say is poise. Now we are all sitting here, the silence in the hall, which we are all experiencing now. No noise, no sound except our voice. What do you term that? It's nothing but poise, a state of silence, stable silence, where there is absolutely, you cannot term that as happiness. But you are all contented because there is a silence. So from this we learn that what yoga teaches is that when we are in the state of present, present has no movement. Present is moment. But the wheel of the moment moves forward, it is called future. If it moves backwards, it is called past. So we always live not on the present, which goes on rolling, but we live in the movement of the moment. That is the past or the future. But nobody attends to the present. So when we are, as I showed you this morning, stambha vritti I said, so we make the mind to remain in a state of present throughout the presentation of the asana, so that he understands, the practitioner understands that vartamana kala, the present, is the only state which gives us real happiness and joy. Because we are not caught up on the wheel of the past, on memory, or the visionary feelings of the future. But we live stable. So that stable time, if we live with a stable time, the other two times disappear. And I consider that as the best of the happiness in the each individual can experience while living. And that is the beauty of yoga, which makes you to realize that you live in the present throughout. Neither oscillating nor wandering. You come to a state of steadiness, and that steadiness should be from the, like a thread having two ends. The mind has to move without disturbing in the thread, keeping the beginning and the end of the thread in a single thread. That is how the mind should flow, and I call that mind is the contented, fulfilled, experienced mind. And that is for me is the real unalloyed joy, unalloyed peace. We use the word, but happiness has no terminology at all, no expressions at all for the real joy. This cannot be explained, if only one can feel it. Therefore, as I am with him, there is a closeness. There is a closeness in his approach and in our approach. So therefore, I consider that we too should work together and blend the materials which we have so that there is a common avenue found for each individual to experience that joy. We use the word, for example, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita and Upeksha, which is common to Buddhism, to all religion. So this Maitri, Karuna, Mudita and Upeksha has got a very literary meaning that you should be compassionate, you should be friendly when needed, you should be compassionate when needed, when you should be glad if my friend is better off than me, but not to go against him. And indifference means indifference to the pleasures or the pains, but keep it in a state of suspense. And that's what the asanas will help you to keep them in a state of suspense. So you develop the art of indifference, which is nothing but renunciation of the attachment of the body and changing that attachment to get contacted and attached to the self. And that I consider is the highest bliss in our sadhana.
We're going to press a pause button because Guruji has most kindly agreed to get two of his students to demonstrate an asana or two which will explain this aspect, the ethical dimensions of posture.
For example, I spoke of the principles of yama and niyama. The principles of yama are ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, parigraha, shaucha, santosha, sabaswadhyaya, ishvara, pranidhana. We are misunderstood that people say what not to do, what to do. It's not what not to do, what to renounce. So yama is the one which is connected to the karmendriya, though the yogic start from the self towards the external frontier, the skin. But actual practical yoga starts from the skin, karmendriya. Then it touches the gyanendriya through yama, through niyama, karmendriya by yama, gyanendriya by niyama, then snayu vritti nirodha by asana, prana vritti nirodha by pranayama, manovritti nirodha by pratyahara, buddhi vritti nirodha by dharana, ahankara vritti nirodha by dhyana, so that you experience the state of the self. And that is how the yogic discipline begins, by accepting the weaknesses and how to get out of these weaknesses through the organs of action up to the sight of the soul. And in one or two asanas I can explain to you how yama and niyamas are involved. Take Trikonasana. एक बाजूला टेक. एक बस लुटे लुटे करना सके. Now I have gone to the asana directly. Now come up, first of all. Now if you observe, I think he has to see, no? Angular. No problem. Okay. எப்படி பண்ண angular பண்ண இப்படி பஸ் இது மேலே போடும். Now stretch your hands. You can do this way. Now if you observe, this is the center of the brain. I have to measure when I am doing the asana, what is the range of stretch I am having? What is this range of stretch I am having on this hand? There is a difference if you observe this and that tip. And this hand is going in one direction, that is going in another direction. Can you see? So body has its naitika dharma. There is a niti, but ethical discipline is not here, whereas you can see this middle finger facing her. This middle facing is in this corner. So mind purging begins from here. I said, how that nail is running, I have to run that nail also in the same direction. Similarly, you can see. Now, I showed about the hand going to the side. Now, ahimsa, this is known as himsa, aggression. Aggression is himsa, not killing alone. Any aggression in the body is himsa. Now you can see, this is flat. This wrist is flat. This wrist is bulging. So, we do the asanas, but asana is meant to observe. So, Sharira Prajna is essential. So, she has no Sharira Prajna, so she follows the dictate of the body. But she is not using the body as an agent for her to purge her intelligence. So, what I say, this I remove that. Drop this down and then stretch. Now, I remove the aggression. So, that is Satya, Ahimsa. Now, observe here. No, you do it. Nietzsche explained it. Now, if you observe, see this leg, see that leg. See his leg, see that leg. Watch here the line. Watch here the line. This is projecting, this is going in. That means there is a fear complex, greed. We call it greed, fear, life, fear of death is a greed. So the greed is that the fear that she is doing does not know that the somatic fear is gripping her, which does not allow her to open here. Now the fear is in this big toe. Roll the toe outwards. What happens there? Intelligence moved, energy moved, freedom came. It was blocked here. So the fear was in this big toe because her mind is thinking that I have to do the asana on this side. So this toe is protecting her. But then she does not know that that toe is gripping me. So that is asatya. Here there is a satya greed, there is ahimsa, there is also steya. This wants, because this is holding. So now I can conquer this leg over that. Like today it is going on, intellectual patents. So this is a type of patent, acquire. Let me accumulate some more of that. And that is why you have to know that each and every part, which is aggressive, which is non-aggressive, which is showing the right path, which is showing the wrong path, which is satya, which is holding, which is not holding, which is coveting, which part is not coveting. I said this was coveting. Greed was there. So fear of greed and fear go together. That's why I showed on this side. Brahmacharya. Now when the mind, intelligence, what is brahmacharya is, the self, the flow of the self should move evenly everywhere without any divisions. Now she is doing, he is doing, he is doing. Now if you observe, see the opening, the lifting of the chest, closing of the chest. Here the ribs has fallen. Where is his shoulder? Where is his shoulder? So narrow. We do the asana, but that is known as bringing the mind to see the hidden parts which grows weeding. That's what we call diseases. Dukkha comes because this hand is unused, this hand is used more. Now I will adjust. No, don't bend, right? If they bend, the position is gone. So what I do, now you can observe. So this is known as fear complex. Stay here. I am coveting, I don't want to leave it. Now what I do is I touch. What happened to the hand, sir? It became longer. Can you see now? So that means I allowed the pranic mind to flow. He was doing like that. So it was locked. The mind did not flow. It was a block. He blocked the flow of the mind. So as just now we talked, he is happy here, he is unhappy here. He is dukkha, this is sukha. So I said, release this. I brought sukha there also. Now go to prose. Now you can see. Swami, he can also hold it. Now if you observe, when he stood, come on, together. There is no deformity from the hip to the leg, foot. They are even, right? Not one is above, not one is below. Or not one above, not one below. Trikonasana. Now go to the pose. You will be surprised to know. This leg is short, that leg is long. Does anybody know? See, this leg is long. This leg stretches short. This is known as abrahmacharya. That means Brahma's, the spiritual intelligence is not flowing that leg. Therefore, that becomes physical asana, like all others calling it. But I have to change the position into a spiritual asana. So what I do is, I just move and I said inner ankle lift up to the level of the outer ankle. That means the self is flowing evenly on the outer ankle and the inner ankle. So I brought brahmacharya in that asana where the one leg was long, this leg you can see, this leg is long, this leg is short, this leg is long. You can see here the length. See the length. So that means fear complex. Again they are holding. So they don't want to release their mind. Now you can see the length increase. And again you can see this chest is projecting. Here, according to I explained yama, niyama, shaucha. It is taking a bath. Blood is flowing everywhere. Blood is not flowing here, no bath there at all. Ashaucha. This is shaucha, this is ashaucha. Same. You can see the width of the chest bottom are non-identical. So that means the blood is touching everywhere. So there is an inner bath taking place. There is no inner bath taking place. So that is ashaucha, this is shaucha. Now I adjust both of them. Now you can see how much I gave bath to that side in the asana. You can measure this, you can measure this. The water does not touch the surface of this body. So what I do is, I readjust. They are using a brick for support. Still, now can you say? This is shaucha. Because I brought shaucha, this sensation I have introduced there, so that is known as santosha. So I am happy here because the blood is touching here, this is also oxygenating there, evenly, without any deviation. Follow? In order to do this, that is tapas. How to use my mind? You have to have a burning aspiration to get the straight pose. Now, show the back. Show the back. The burning desire is hidden here. This is called trikonasana, but straight line. Is it a semicircular line or a straight line spine? You can see the spine. It's a circular, and we call the name Trikonasana, and what are we doing? We are doing Chakrasana, not Trikonasana. Dome shape we have taken. So it's a dome shape. So I have to remove that shape of the dome. Give me your hand. Like that. What did I do, sir? This is tapas. Aspiration. It should be burning where I am doing wrong, where I am doing right. Just doing the pose, saying I am satisfied, that's not a satisfaction. As His Holiness said, sensory satisfaction is not a satisfaction at all. Spiritual satisfaction you have to achieve. So from here, I tell him to go and reach that leg by the mind. Drop that down. Similarly, have. Now, you can see this shoulder blade and this shoulder blade are not parallel. But here you can see the chest is good. So take this shoulder blade is just completely detached to the body. This shoulder blade is detached, this is attached. Yes or no? Yes. Now having this, though they are practicing, they don't observe. Now when it is attached, let me attach that shoulder blade also to my body. What happened, sir? What movement came? How much space the mind got it in that limited body? So this is Swadhyaya. Study of the weaknesses of each tissue in body, how I have to keep it attended to so that it comes also as clean as I wanted it. So when all this, the surrendering of this pose to the self. Now this triangle is a good triangle because this is one triangle, this is one triangle, this is second triangle, and the third triangle is the soul. So you can see from the center to the foot and from the center to the top arm, the body is evenly divided, and that is known as His Holiness used the word equilibrium. Samatvam yoga uchyate. I have brought equanimity in each and every cell, each and every joint, each and every muscle, each and every ligament, in such a way that the mind flows without a barricade. The president can move in a red light, you will be arrested. The same thing here. The self is blocked here and there. So I want my body to allow the self to flow without any interruption in each asana. And that is known as asana, where all the 10 aspects of the ethical disciplines are involved. When that is involved, the mind is single. So you jump to pratyahara immediately because mind control comes then. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that very inspiring, insightful, empowering, and to use contemporary jargon, awesome demonstration. But I think it raises implicitly, again, and if we were to look at the two traditions, and now we're talking about techniques, in many ways, when we look at the Buddhist tradition of practice, working with the mind and the emotions, it's in a sense to leave the body behind and to move into consciousness, to train the mind, and that the body will somehow follow suit. And what does His Holiness think of yoga? After all, the Buddha spent many, many years practicing yoga before he sat under the Bodhi tree. And so, what is the place of physical exercises and practices? And particularly, we have seen here that just by fine-tuning alignments in the body, there is release of emotions, of negative emotions. And if I could just sort of a personal reflection or a recounting of an exchange with Mr. Iyengar, and I recounted that this morning, that when I met him about 2 years ago in Pune, he said that, look, he had given up the active teaching of yoga because he was concentrating on special needs yoga, because he wanted to concentrate on his physical practice, on his practice of asana and yoga, because he felt there were still parts of his body that his consciousness had not reached. So implicit in this path is the ability to carry your consciousness, as in some ways we work in Buddhism on our consciousness and minds, to the remotest, deepest recesses of the physical body. And from that follows and flows insight and a change and a shift in consciousness, which is a sort of different approach in some ways. While he's interpreting, we have left notepads on your chairs, and in about 10 minutes, or maybe this is a good time, if you could pass them down to the edge of to the last seats on each row, we will have them collected and sent up. These are questions for His Holiness or Sri Iyengar. So if you have a question that you'd like asked, and then my colleagues will collect these and send them up. Please.
Of course, there is a very intimate connection between our body and mind. And there is a clear recognition of this in the Buddhist sources. For example, when a practitioner sits down to do formal sitting meditation, there's a great emphasis on adopting the right body posture, known as the posture should have 7 aspects of a good posture of a meditator. And one key part of that is maintaining your spine straight. And the idea here is that when your spine is straight, then it allows for the energies to flow more fluidly, and there is a kind of a certain relaxedness in your body. So there is clearly a connection there.
May I interpret it? So, according to us, the body is the scene and the self is the seer. According to Yoga Sutras also, Patanjali says the conjunction between the seer and the seen is the cause for all unhappinesses. So discard. So break that. But being as an academical man, he answers in such a way, renounce the seen and stick to this seer. Realizing that it is not possible, or understanding, there's a academical terminology, he changes. They are there for the sake of the soul, for the sake of the self, to understand its position. Very beautifully he has explained where Saswami Shaktyo Swarupa Upalabdhi Hetu Samyoga. This samyoga, this conjunction between the seer and the seen is for you to understand and uphold the quality of the self. You really understand, get the knowledge of the self, understand the knowledge of the self, and experience the sight of the self. So that is why all these things are there. So for me, as he put the word, Sharira is not Maya, Sharira is a playground. So the Atma plays in that playground, so that the Prakriti and Purusha get wedded together, like Kshetragya Yoga of Gita, where it says the body getting wedded with the self. So yoga also makes the Prakriti to get wedded with the self, so that there is no deviation between the element or elements of nature or the principle of the soul. So union of these two is really the human happiness that one is striving for to experience that. And I call that is the stage. And His Holiness also said, when the Manolaya comes, they call it Shunya, we call it Manolaya. There is no difference between Shunya, Ashunya, or Manolaya and Manojaya. Manolaya is a state of quietness. After experiencing that Manolaya state, where the mind do not wander at all, stay in a stable state, then the constructive use of the mind is said that now use the mind. This experience of quiet, tranquil state of the mind, use it as a 5th Purushartha, as Bhakti Marga. Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha are the 4 Purusharthas which everybody knows. So the 5th Purushartha is that after having reached this state of equipoise between body and mind, change, because the body can take care of itself, the mind can take care of itself, so both mind and body releases their consciousness and the intelligence to think of the soul and mingle with the soul. And that is what the aim of yoga is, and we are struggling for it.
다 류기 가서 우리 그게 나다로 또 저거는 밀은 건 난저다 니도 난저 근데 저서래.
So His Holiness is wondering that if in the practice of the yoga tradition there is such an emphasis on appreciating the connection between the body and mind and the proper postures of body and how that facilitates different states of mind. He is wondering because in the Buddhist tradition there are certain in the Vajrayana tradition there are certain practices which aim to utilize states of mind during dream state and deep sleep state, which obviously has no correlation to physical posture. So how would you relate that to the yoga teachings?
No, when I presented this even Trikonasana, for example, I showed you the ethical behavior of the body. And also, some parts are in a sleepy state, some parts in a dreamy state, some parts are in a wakeful state, in any movement. So, the first stage of making the people to do the asanas and pranayama is to realize that how to get all pervasiveness of the intelligence so that there is no compartment like nidra, swapna or jagrata. But it should be all pervading where all the three avasthas or the states disappear. And I consider that as the highest point of dhyana.
But Mr. Iyengar, do we have do you have in the yogic tradition working with dream states? So when you're in sleep and you, or not in sleep, or different levels of sleep, that you then work with or use dream states as part of the practice?
No, it's not like that. Most probably yogis do not get much dreams. And what you have to know is the state of the mind. In Jagrata state, the mind is in the brain. In dreamy state, the mind is in the throat. That's why many people get choking in dreams. And in sleep, the mind rests in the heart. Hridaye chitta sambhite. So the seat of the mind is the heart itself. So as such, when we practice asanas, we make the mind to see that it does not do half part the forgetting, half part acting, so that the entire wakefulness of the brain is diffused towards the bottom of the feet also, so that the energy and the electrical power of the intellectual strength is equal. What is in the brain should be on the feet. And that is actually active meditation. Please don't think asana is a physical. It's active. There are two types of meditation. One is active meditation, one is passive meditation. In active meditation, we bring the self to come in contact with the physical body, whereas in dhyana, the physical body moves towards the soul, the core of the being. In dhyana is centripetal, in asana is centrifugal. So if we know these differences in the movement of the mind, probably you will all become to experience the knowledge of which is connected to nature is equal, is in par with the intelligence of the soul. So as long as there is a difference between intellect, cultivated intellect by the mind, and the dominant hidden illuminative light, if these two join together, I consider that as dhyana. And that dhyana leads to Swarupa Shunyavastha, which we call samadhi. Actually, samadhi is not the highest level. This is the beginning stage, because Swarupa Avastha is lost. The Swarupa Pratishtha has not been established. So Kaivalya Pada speaks that after experiencing the quietness of the self, where the presence of this I is faded, then the real I comes up. And that real I means that you have reached the ultimate aim of dhyana, because all these other aspects becomes the steps for kaivalya, moksha. So in a simple language, moha is connected to the body, moksha is connected to the self. So freeing oneself from moha is for me the freedom of the body.
Your Holiness, in both traditions, the circumscribing moral framework is a crucial imperative. In yoga they call it yama niyama. And but however, in applied Buddhism, in our everyday learning context as aspirants, as many of us are, that most teachers don't really wait for us to fulfill the obligations of the moral framework before plunging into the path. The assumption is, in many cases, and certainly amongst many yoga teachers, the assumption, sorry, the assumption in some sort of many yoga traditions is that if the mind is very agitated and in deep distress, then you might as well apply techniques of pranayama or whatever, of slowing the mind, so that you can begin to address issues of morality and subscribe to the moral framework. So how important is the order, the sequence of moving from one level to the other of practice? Because what we've been talking about is intellectually stimulating, but certainly and I can only speak by myself, I'm sure people here who are far more evolved than I am, that it's unattainable, certainly in this lifetime, that aspiration. So we're still stuck. We're trying to live, morally better lives and struggling with that. So what are the aids that we can access?
Shila, Samadhi, Paranja, common. Buddhism and ancient non-Buddhism, same. So Shila means training of mindfulness.
Training of mindfulness and awareness.
So Chudrim Tawa Chenshi Payudi Kuwa.
So in order to uphold an ethically disciplined life, you need to apply these two faculties of mindfulness and awareness.
저다가 다디 첸시 공부 동야 되기 삼대 주비하기 다 답시 조도 첸시입니다.
And the reason why morality practice is so important is because in the context of living a moral life, you are in some sense fine-tuning your ability to apply these two mental faculties, mindfulness and awareness. And in fact, these are the two most important factors in the context of cultivating dhyana, concentration as well.
The subjectivity, Sunday. Sunday dreamni, Sunday the sim nubat peomado, Sunday corresponding with Lumon Association, right? So the Induzane, quota, Migbe Cavale, Tapo, Gavem or Duada, Gawachijum, Lopchijum or Duadi, that Migbud, and a good with the Cavatoa. So had a tow shit of the
So now when you look at the dhyana, the concentration, where the key, quality of that is the single-pointedness of mind, the stability, a stable mind with a single-pointedness. And in itself, from a kind of a moral point of view, it's neither virtuous nor non-virtuous. And what makes it virtuous is the other factors, such as the kind of object it focuses on, complementary factors, and so on. That's why, in the Buddhist context, the role of wisdom, prajna, becomes very important.
So therefore,
in the Buddhist tradition, we make distinctions between, vipassana, that is mundane level, and vipassana, a non-mundane level. And that demarcation is done on the basis of the kind of object that you take on in your practice and application of wisdom.
난 지금 내가 당동디 탈배줄로다 내리 탐지집줄로도 그런라서.
And whether that particular practice of vipassana, whether it is mundane level or non-mundane level, becomes, from the Buddhist point of view, a cause for attainment of moksha or liberation, again, is determined by the kind of motivation that underpins that, whether it becomes a cause for attainment of liberation from cyclic existence or omniscient state of the Buddhahood, is again determined by the underpinning motivation.
The Sangha Naliya, the Sanjebe Sangha Chönaliya, Chögy Juju, that Nanjo Lami is Jenny, that the Nanjo Jus Jigdabine, that the Nanjo says it's the Jigdua. Which Chögy Lai Nanjo Yari, Dunjig Nanjo Yari, Yari, Juju Little Yari, Yari in Nanjo, Tanya Jasadi, Nanjo Ju, that you come with the child. So, Mrs. Chaju could Lung Sunga, Yoyari, Lungan, Yoyari. You know, that's so sandwiches the Najo Junala. That is all Najo Lamic Junala. So that the Tanda together considered Sim Namdon Dam and the Yevakudulia, Dimato, she heard of Argelia, when the Lulu Kutu said, Live. The Vegeta turns out the vision now, Shuneri, that you done that in the Julali category.
So, as you are aware, Dr. Iyengar, in the Buddhist context, we also use the term yoga, particularly in the Vajrayana tradition. And within the Vajrayana, traditionally we speak of 4 classes of Tantra, in the Buddhist Tantra, the Kriya, Charya, and Yoga, and Anuttara Yoga. And so although in the first 2 levels of Tantra, there are some form of yogic practices that involve usage of your breathing processes like pranayama. However, it is in the Yoga Tantra, and particularly the Yoga Tantra, the real sense of yoga is understood in the Buddhist context.
That the Kadada Lugi energy somewhere. That did the position. Sim Tokwa Kone Konto Payada, Sim Namdo Gotola, any energy the position. That's Sim Shamba Lung. That good it the energy. Sim Yoyak Nubati. So that the Zolung the driver in the Zane, Zolung Nat Nuyachi. That Zolung Nat Nuyak in Yamni Chevala, Ludi, but Debushi, Jongushi Quach. She, Zaki Lungi Oyagi, Yankaruchi Sigori. Thought the Yankamaya, any Lujung did.
So in the Buddhist context, particularly in the Vajrayana, the term yoga is used in a particular way, where the kind of the special feature of the Vajrayana practice is the utilization of bodily energy as part of the meditation practices. And there is a recognition that the movement of the mind is very intimately connected with the movements of energy within the body. So therefore, if one wants to train the mind and discipline it, one also needs to find a way of calming the turbulences in the mental state, a mental level, and that needs to be done by cleansing and training the bodily energy, the vayu, the pranas. So and therefore, in order to do this, then you need a kind of a certain flexibility of body, and so part of that preliminary practice of the yoga, we have actual physical exercises in the Buddhist text as well.
That they are not teaching us. They are those negative. Some namdo le vemba. Some chita toju kaya meba. Chita lumudens the chul paji. 다 농어때 된저기 찌양 미도고 직당 다야 배나 레다 찌양 미도고 되기 찌양 미도고 내가 대라 차당다 데저테디 배정문주의 요하면 세브레 레디네 디기 찌양 미도고 검셔버 디기 제도가 내걸이야 차당 충충로야기 다 년부치당 그렇지게나 다 산제베 중문 안에 차당 그 천배 대민주 영문도 예대 순집에 이제 못 거면 다 대민주 영문도 예대 실은 영문자한테 되게 예배 있는 자네 따와 기베 집어 영문 다 될래야 미도고 삼기 미셔와 대 가서 우리 그게 친절로 따와 되기 신유 수신배관에 다들 숙중다야지. So
one question that His Holiness would like to ask you, Dr. Iyengar, is the following. Clearly, when one attains a state of mental equilibrium, where there is no conceptual thought processes going on, where one is in a state of equilibrium, and when one, in fact, one could call that state a kind of a neutral state of mind, where there is no evaluation and judgment and so on. So clearly, when one is in that state, there is no room for the arising of manifest levels of anger, greed, attachment, and so on. The question is, in the subsequent to that experience, in the subsequent period, what would act as a kind of a remedy or a counterforce against our afflictive emotions? And the reason why I ask this question is the following. Because in the Buddhist tradition, among the various factors that afflict our mind, we have more affective states like anger and hostility and attachment, jealousy, and so on, which seem to require a certain types of approaches to calm them down. But there are also more cognitive types of dissonance, such as a misconception and strong grasping at a false view of self. So in the Buddhist tradition, there is an understanding that in order to counter this, pure non-conceptual, thoughtless approach isn't enough. You need to actually actively cultivate an insight, an understanding that acts that sort of takes into account the opposite perspective of our false, distortions. So there is this recognition that you need, in addition to the non-conceptual state of mind, you also need a more discursive, active, insight. So that's the question. Yeah.
Well, there is a very good sloka in Hatya Pradipika. Indriyanyamhi manonataha manonata maratasya layonataha Indriyani manonata manonatasya marataha maratasya layonata talayo nadamastritaha. It's a very important function where mind is the master of the senses and prana is, as they spoke, prana is the master of the mind. So the moment you realize and master the rhythmic flow of breath, the mind becomes calm. Chalevatam chalam chittam nischalam nischalam bhavet. So as the wind blows, so the mind moves. So there is a tremendous connection between prana shakti and manas shakti. So if these two are coordinated together, the mind cannot wander at all because prana is brought into a rhythmic state. That's why pranayama is a foundation for experiencing the spiritual aspect of life. So prana is very important, which I agree with them. And at the same time, we should know that a bird cannot fly with one wing. It has two wings to fly. So similarly, if we have to climb the ladder of spiritual life, we have followed two wings. One is the ethical practice of yama and niyama, and the other is shilata, righteousness and virtuousness. Both have to be balanced in order to experience the truth, the real truth of our art of living. And I think we are all working for that to experience this.
Dr. Iyengar, I think that in terms of our aspiration for happiness, for want of a better word, that in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition we're often encouraged that if we have kleshas or negative states of mind, to meditate on an antidote that will diminish the power of that negative emotion. So, and to move beyond the merely calming of the mind, of getting the mind and body or the subtle elements in sync and harmony, is there a role for something like that to work with thoughts and ideas and emotions?
You know, vitarka bhadane pratipaksha bhavanam. Very clearly it is said that if anything, negative currents are there, you have to think of the opposite currents to function. Vitarka bhadane pratipaksha bhavanam. It has got two meanings, bhadana and bhavana. What is the bhadana you experience and what is the bhavana you experience? Suppose that they did Trikonasana. What is the bhadana on the right side? What is the bhavana on the left side? So synchronizing the bhadana with bhavana, bhavana with the bhadana, so the bhadana disappears, the bondage disappears. So pratipaksha bhavana is also in the yogic term, but it is meant for the intellectuals. So what about the common people? So for a common man, average intellectual, Patanjali uses the word that after exhalation, Maitri Karuna says, he speaks that after exhalation, remain quiet for some time and experience the state of the mind. So you experience a state of manolaya after exhalation. So first lesson Patanjali gives is about baiting, pausing after exhalation, passive exhalation, not forceful exhalation. The air has to be released, not to be expelled. So you have to learn that way so that the mind gets the quality of quietness and tranquility. From that one he has to develop how we have to improve in order to conquer the 5 elements, 5 tanmatras, the indriyas, the manas and the buddhi. He gives in the 3rd chapter how asanas help to conquer the elements of nature, the panchatanmatras, the atomic qualities of nature. Then he speaks of the sharira, which has the whole. For you to improve further, there the indriyas become quiet. When the indriyas come quiet, the mind becomes quiet. Mind unites with the Mahat, cosmic intelligence. Cosmic intelligence dissolves in the nature and Prakriti shines.
If I may take up...
Purusha science.
If I may take up a few of the questions from the audience, and there isn't much time, so I will just limit it to 2. How do I control my happiness if someone I love is in deep pain? How can I be happy and have compassion in such circumstances?
Sir, I am a married man. I have 5 children. I am not practicing yoga as a renunciate. I practice yoga, though Shivanandaji and all others offered me that they would give a diksha. I refused. I said, I am practicing yoga for the common people to get the quality of what the yogis say. I said, I am married. I did marry. And after marriage, I made my wife to become my teacher because alignment was not known to me. So I guided her how she should look at my poses and where I go wrong. So there was a tremendous attachment between me and my wife. But all of a sudden, the institute was inaugurated, Bhumi Pujan we call it, and within 24 hours my wife died. And I have taken such a responsibility, and I told my children, of course if my children were there they would have said, today is Friday, my wife is leaving the house, you will not see my mother again. And next day she died. I admitted to the hospital, she died. Now a man with such an attachment to my wife, what have I to do? I was in Bombay. I asked my wife, should I stay or should I go run the Bombay class? I was conducting weekend classes in Mumbai. So my wife told me, no, I will look after myself, you do not close, please go and teach. And the moment I was reluctant, but still, if you are confident, I will go. I conducted the class, Saturday night, I was very restless, and at 3 o'clock, my students come and tells me, your wife is seriously ill, you have to start to Pune immediately. So we went halfway, then in the halfway they asked me, would you like to go to a hospital or you want to go home? I told my friend, if my wife is dead, she is at home. If she is sick, she is in the hospital. So I do not know. Then they told me at that time, my Guru, your wife is dead, but we did not want to tell you. So as the question is very good, so I accepted it. I said, my friend, I knew that when I told my wife left on Friday, my house, that means she will not return. She is a Griha Lakshmi. Griha Lakshmi left. So my mind was already, God had given me the mind that you are going to lose your wife. So I lost my wife, but I told humorously, but fortunately I have got 2 wives. One was yoga and the other was my mortal body, wife, mortal body. I said, God has made me that you are caught up within these 2. Now I have taken one of your wife out and I am leaving you the second wife. So that is how I became more interested in yoga after my wife's death, and I conquered attachment because I knew that soul knew, because my children never suffered. She said, I want to see my children. The doctor sent, she saw the children and she said, I will not come home, please go and light the lamp. And they lit the lamp and came home and she expired. Now when that attachment was there, just imagine that could I taught her yoga, I would also thought of renouncing. I said, no, she have given me the responsibility of carrying the unfinished work that I should finish without her. And that's how I conquered that attachment and came out of it, my friend. I'm giving my personal example.
We have several questions on depression, that when we're depressed, what are the techniques, what are the practices that can help us climb out of depression? Your Holiness.
As Dr. Iyengar just pointed out, what is very true is that the stronger you're grasping, the greater your suffering and pain. So, for example, in the Buddhist tradition, on the one hand, the tradition advocates the cultivation of loving kindness and compassion. But on the other hand, the tradition also advocates... and before we actually do the meditation on loving kindness and compassion, there is encouragement to cultivate equanimity. So which seems to, on the surface, seem to be kind of contradictory. On the one hand, because the practice of equanimity involves some degree of detachment from the object of attachment. but compassion and loving kindness seems to be making you reach out. So this seems to be on the surface kind of contradiction, but in fact what is happening here is that through the practice of equanimity, that kind of the grasping element in your kind of love is being kind of cleansed, so that the compassion and the love that arises is a pure one, is a genuine one,
초스볼로.
unbiased.
지구도 졸로 잘
Because otherwise, before that, your love and affection is biased.
아니 낭바지 거는 샤베 있는다. 동네 고화장 풍부 샤베. 아니 당진다 아니 당진다 대왕의 레 사네 다가들 레뉴니 두샤베 엔다 배치다 낭고 가리네 페이지 두지기도 그런시 아니 말 풍부딘 두지기도 그런시 뭐지 쉬우지 자주 쉬우지 걸리도 와 근데 테스트 가게 돼서 아다들 레이 something
So
거 동네 그런 이제 맨날 타고 들어가서 김도 와 집 사주 대하시는 집 사도 타고 들어가면 사실 들어
So, speaking from the perspective of Buddhist practitioner, then what is required is a kind of an adoption of a certain outlook on life that takes into account that
also I think you mentioned your
our very existence as a conditioned being, conditioned by afflictions and the ignorance that is at the root of these afflictions, our very existence as a conditioned being is in the nature of suffering and dissatisfaction. So once you have that kind of outlook and understanding of suffering and dukkha in the general and wider sense, then from that wide perspective, then the individual specific, when you encounter suffering and tragedy, then you can accept it and you can say, okay, that's to be expected, that's part of the reality.
전다 일단은 미 레라시들이 realistic choice 동네 디도 가르쳐비 realistic 차디 다들 realistic 차리야 아주 주주기 가르쳐서는 사디 다다르샤디 realistic 쉐도 아주 다다티
So often I tell people that in our day-to-day life, which has many ups and downs, one of the most effective ways of dealing with this life situation is to really adopt a kind of a realistic stance. And that way you can deal with situations in a realistic manner. And here the Shantideva's advice is a very helpful one when he says that if there is a solution to the problem, there is no point in being overwhelmed by it. If there is no solution to the situation, then there is no, if there is any solution, there is no need for being overwhelmed. And if there is no solution, then there is no point in being overwhelmed.
Very practical. Very realistic. So whether Buddhist or non-Buddhist, whether believer or non-believer, we can adopt that.
Now can I say in the yogic field, just one word? When Daurmanasya is there, the mind becomes empty and sinks deep inside. So the disattachment between the conscious existence disappears. So when we teach for them, we make them to connect the mind to the body first, to develop a positive attitude. So by developing that, because mind has sunk, so it is for the asanas where we have to make the subconscious mind to grow to such an extent that it covers the emotional seat of the trunk totally, so that they develop unity. This connection having been removed, connected to the body, so that they come back to their ordinary way of thinking, then we guide them from there how to proceed step by step on the spiritual ladder.
Thank you. This has been a great blessing, a great privilege, a great honor, a great learning experience, and a historic moment for all of us here in the audience. And may I, on behalf of the entire congregation here, send out our very modest, humble, but earnest and most sincere prayer for a very long life for both the great masters. Mr. Iyengar at 93 is ahead of His Holiness in the race, but nonetheless, our very sincere and earnest prayers for your happiness and good health, and may you and your wisdom and your lives continue to guide us.
Thank you. Oh, very good. Thank you.
Which are the two?
We'll sort it out later. We'll sort it out.
Confused. So this is one set. What is the other set? Oh, okay. This is also there. Two are right. These two are right. So these are all my books.
Oh, thank you. I see.
Heavy. Thank you.
Two sets. Complete.
Yoga exercise. Thank you.